Ah, yes, Luigi's Mansion. It's one of the greatest video game series ever created. It gives us insight into the misadventures of one of Nintendo's greatest characters, the funny green plumber. Wait, what, what the hell? No. I'm talking about the one and only Luigi. You know, the timid younger brother of Mario. He's the star of these games. I mean, duh, his name is literally in the title. These games have a very special place in my heart, as I have sunk hundreds of hours into all of them. They were the reason I got my first GameCube and 3DS. The memories of playing Dark Moon and Luigi's Mansion 1 with my cousin and sister are forever etched into my memory, and we still go back and play them every now and then today. This is all to say that I've played these games a lot, so I think I have enough experience to know how good they each truly are. Let's get on to the list. Number 1, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I can already hear everybody typing away at their keyboards in the comments going, "What do you mean Dark Moon is the best? It's clearly the worst." And, okay, I get it. I want to specify that this is my opinion, so you probably won't agree with me, especially here. Anyway, let me explain why I believe Dark Moon is the best Luigi's Mansion game. The game is quite linear compared to the first game. Many people see this as a downgrade, and I can definitely see where they are coming from. But I see this as an upside. See, when I play video games, I want to turn off my brain and get immersed in the game's atmosphere. It is not very easy to do in a game that doesn't follow a linear structure. Now, it is possible, just not nearly as easy. This game is also visually stunning for the 3DS. It looks amazing, even giving games on the Wii a run for their money. The shadows and rooms are so detailed and clearly have so much effort put into them, making each location memorable. Next up, we have the ghosts. The ghosts in this game take on a much more cartoony appearance compared to those that reside on the first game. Many people dislike it and say that it takes away from the game. I think this is false. The ghosts in the first game are often too human-like for my liking, because when I play a Nintendo game, I often expect goofy caricatures, not things that reside in the uncanny valley. I'm looking at you, baby. Another complaint that a surprising amount of people have is that the boss fights just aren't very cool or memorable. I completely disagree with this. I mean, you have the big spider in the hallway, the big ice monster, the huge clock, the stairs that come to life, the crazy looking plant things. I mean, the list just goes on. I find almost every single boss to be memorable and amazing in almost every way. Some people also say that the game is way too easy, and I will admit, it often is a really easy game. But there are some really challenging parts that catch you off guard, which makes for a really fun experience. Now, when I say this, one part comes to mind. It's near the end of the game, and what you have to do is traverse this huge building and make sure each room's paranormal activity doesn't get too high. I could not beat this when I was younger, and even now, at 16, it still puts up quite a fight. Then we have the multiplayer. Don't even get me started on the multiplayer. It holds hours of endless fun via the Scarescraper. You and up to 3 other people traverse a massive skyscraper where you need to hunt ghosts to keep the timer from running out. It's incredibly fun, and I totally recommend trying this out. Number 2, Luigi's Mansion 1. This is by far my favorite game on the GameCube. At its core, it's a tech demo to show the GameCube's capabilities. But man, it ended up being so much more. It's a cult classic, and many consider it the best game in the series. And trust me, I can definitely see where they're coming from. This game was one of the first of its kind, and it is just overflowing with charm and personality. It takes place in a mansion that Luigi wins in a lottery that he didn't even enter. He goes in and finds this crazy scientist that goes by Professor Egad, fighting off some ghosts, and he is failing miserably. He hands you the poltergust and sends you off to catch ghosts and turn them into paintings? It's a little weird. It is so hard to be critical of this game because it is the first, similarly to how it's hard to be critical of the first Mario game. But like that game, it definitely has some problems. It's gonna sound like I'm being really mean, but if you stick to the end of this section, I do have some good things to say. The controls are honestly pretty bad in my opinion. The poltergust and Luigi are controlled separately, which makes sense in concept, but the tiny little C-stick makes this feel really clunky and uncomfortable. They just feel unnecessarily complicated. It's so hard to explain, but something about the poltergust controls in particular is just really uncomfortable. I can't pinpoint what it is, but if you play the game enough, you'll know what I'm talking about. The only word I can think of is stiff, but that still doesn't describe it very well. Another complaint I have is the boss fights. There are so many in this game, and almost none of them are memorable, in my opinion, that is. Almost every ghost you catch will be a boss because the amount of just normal ghosts in this game are minimal, which makes you really focus on the bad part of the boss fights. And I just looked it up, and it turns out there are a whopping 25 bosses in this relatively short game. And my final real complaint is about the ghost catching process. This doesn't really apply to the bosses, by the way, so keep that in mind. The extremely small amount of normal ghosts you will encounter in the game will be nothing but annoying to fight. This is mostly because of the annoying poltergeist controls. So first, you need to turn off your lights so that the ghost becomes visible. Then, you have to wait until the ghost gets ready to attack, because if you flash it too soon, it'll just go back invisible, which makes sense. But it is still annoying. Then, you have to hope and pray that you are angled out perfectly to stun the ghost by turning your light back on. Then you have to suck up the ghost, which I will admit is quite satisfying. This is all to say that I find the process just oddly uncomfortable. Alright, time to get to the good parts. First, the mansion itself. Anyone who has played Luigi's Mansion knows that the atmosphere is just it's perfect. You can listen to the wonderfully crafted, eerie music while Luigi hums along with you, get absorbed in the twisting corridors, and fall in love with just the amazing design of the mansion. Each section is packed with personality and charm. It is impossible to traverse the mansion without having a fantastic time. You don't even have to be hunting the ghosts. The game is also open world, similar to the way Metroid games are. You can visit areas, but can't progress through them without finding the correct thing first, whether that be a key or a fire spirit. Another great thing about this game is the boss fights. Now, I understand that I said I dislike these, and I'll be honest, I do dislike most of them. But some of them are very memorable. This is because they take you to different dimensions, and can actually be quite challenging. I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of that one ghost that uses the shadows in the graveyard, and the baby, which both take you to wonderfully creative environments and actually pose quite a challenge. The final thing I love about this game is the secret boos. They're not required, but I love hunting them down. They're fun to optimize and track. This is odd, because I usually dislike the boos in Luigi's Mansion games, but something about how they handled here makes me love them. Finally, last, but certainly not least, we have Luigi's Mansion 3. Now I'm going to be completely honest here. I think this game is the worst in the series by far. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy playing the game, but it's definitely the game that I want to go back and play again the least. First things first, the game doesn't even take place in a mansion, man. It takes place in a hotel. I understand why they had to do this, but I mean, it's literally called Luigi's Mansion. Second, the main antagonist isn't even King Boo anymore. It's the freaky-looking lady that owns the hotel. Yes, King Boo is still the mastermind behind everything, but he's almost never seen before his final boss fight. I wouldn't usually have a problem with this, but I just don't find the lady to be nearly as intimidating or scary as King Boo. There's a reason the Mario games have kept Bowser this long, just saying. The game also follows a sort of mix between the original and Dark Moon. It puts you in an open world where you can go wherever you want at almost any time in the game, but you rarely have any real reason to unless you missed a collectible. So I think it follows the sort of mission-following format of Dark Moon more closely. Now, another thing is the ghost hunting itself. It feels great, but I have one huge problem with it. Once you have been sucking up the ghost for long enough, you gain the ability to sort of throw them around, and even in other ghosts. Don't get me wrong, it is really fun, but it is extremely overpowered. It allows you to clean out an entire room with just one ghost, which removes almost all difficulty. I understand that you could just, not use it, but I mean, it's right there and it's just so hard to resist. My final real complaint is that the game often just drags on and on and on and on. It does this in two main ways. Almost all of the individual floors feel like they are just slightly too drawn out. Like they would have been perfect, but Nintendo just had to pad out game time that extra couple of minutes. The second, and much more annoying way, is that almost every time you find an elevator button, Polterkitty, that little house spawn, just has to come over and take it. Remember when I said you rarely have to travel between floors? This is why. You have to track down this annoying little monster. It just feels like it serves no other purpose than to pad out game time, because it really adds next to nothing to the gameplay. Alright, now for what I like. First things first, the game looks fantastic. I mean, just go look at the opening cutscene on YouTube. I mean, it's one of the best looking games I've ever played. Next on the list is Luigi. I honestly dislike Luigi in single player, because he just feels way too forced into the gameplay. But the reason I like him so much is because he added multiplayer into the main game. This is something that I never thought I would see in a Luigi's Mansion game. It's honestly such a treat to go through playing the game with someone else and solving the puzzles together is just so much fun. If you've only ever played it single player, I would 100% recommend the multiplayer, as it makes the whole game so much more enjoyable. Next up is the floors themselves. Each floor is quite unique and memorable. They have the room full of sand, the boiler room, the freaking mall. I mean, they are all so distinct from each other. And finally, we have the boss fights. I have a sort of love-hate relationship with these things. On one hand, I like how unique and challenging they can be at times. On another hand, they have almost no replayability. Most of the challenge comes from figuring out how to damage the boss. And once you figure that out, the first time, the challenge is basically gone. Combine this with the fact that your poltergust is really overpowered in this game, and you have a boss fight that just ends up being boring after the first couple of times. Alright, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for all the subscribers I've been getting recently, by the way. I mean, I went from 40 to almost 60 in a little over a week, which is just amazing. And you'll notice this video is a little different from all my previous ones. I'm trying to put a lot more effort in the videos and trying to shift their focus from just non-edited video game gameplay to what I really enjoy, which is Nintendo. Alright, again, thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, comment, I don't know, hamburger, so that I know that you did. Alright, thanks for watching.